Hey, what is up you guys? Happy Movie Monday and welcome back to Movies and a Mug. The little show I sit down every Monday and talk about a movie. Let's put it on a mug. Get it? Okay, so this week my VPN was fucking with me. It was playing a little game, it was having some feelings, it was having some emotions, and so, since I live in the UK, that meant that I couldn't access Tubi. Since I couldn't access Tubi, I had to pay a whopping £2.49 to watch this week's movie. You're welcome. So last week we talked about Wolf Cop, and I really liked Wolf Cop. I thought that Wolf Cop was a lot of fun. I will definitely be watching the sequel at some point in the future. And the vibe that I got from people on Reddit and Facebook was that they found Wolf Cop really fun. Most people on the subreddits who had already seen it thought that it was a really good movie. And a couple of people told me they were going to go check it out. So if you did, I hope you enjoyed it. You're welcome. My gift from me to thee. Oh, but this week I have something completely different because last week I enjoyed myself. So this week I decided that I needed to suffer. You know, I needed just a little bit of pain. And because I clearly do not value my own mental stability, this week we are watching Loqueesha. This movie is a lot. And there's a lot to talk about with it. So I'm going to get into it pretty quickly. And then we'll kind of meander off on a couple of tangents when it's maybe more natural to talk about things connected to the movie and the guy who, you know, created it. Getting sweaty, we're going shopping.
It's October 3rd.
Okay, so much like every great movie, Loqueesha starts with a montage of stock footage. Some nondescript cities fading into each other, a couple of skylines, some old buildings, followed by a Final Cut Pro title insert. The editor of this movie didn't even bother to install a custom font. I do more than that for these piece of shit videos. Cheap. So the movie starts with a guy in a bar and he's whining, he's moaning, he's complaining, he's boo-hooing about having to spend 8 hours a day and then at the end of it he doesn't even know who he is. Blah blah, whinge whinge, moan moan, blah blah. The bartender then gives him some pretty vanilla advice and then the guy takes it and is like, wow, you really nailed it. You really did that.
I always say I gotta be me. Otherwise, who else is gonna do it?
And yes, this is the first instance of many in this movie of people responding to Joe, who is the bartender and our main character, giving them rather mundane advice, like he hath just told them to buy Apple stock in the 90s. Like he just fixed their credit, put their mum in a nursing home and bought them an apartment in Beverly Hills. I'm not gonna lie, watching this set off some immediate alarm bells. Because if you love bad movies, if you are a connoisseur of trash, much like myself, then you will know that there are certain dog whistles. There are certain things that you can see in a movie and you immediately know what it's trying to tell you. Certain telltale signs that a movie has a specific origin. Like, you know, a male lead character in a romance movie menacingly standing over a woman's bed while she's sleeping. It's probably a Twilight fan fiction. A movie where the main character was dead all along. They've probably seen The Sixth Sense. You know, that type of thing. Like, this first interaction gave me the sinking feeling that the guy who played Joe was probably also the director and the producer and the writer, licensing officer, prop manager, catering staff, all of it. And after a 3-minute Google search, I was right, bitch. This movie was indeed written, directed, produced, and funded by a Mr. Jeremy Saville.
You love with Loqueesha. What's your problem?
And I think this might be a good point to take our first little detour, to take our first trip off the beaten path, and just have a little discussion about some of the things that Jeremy has said about his decision-making processes when making Loqueesha. I guess there's something to be said for directorial intent, and I'm nothing if not fair, so I'd like to put it out there. I would just like to say, however, just in the interest of transparency, you should take the words of Mr. Saville at complete face value because he seems very honest and super transparent.
America My Face is saying everything that you need to know.com.
This is the man who claimed that the name Loqueesha itself just came to him, just apropos of nothing. He was just thinking, what could I name this character? Lucy, Beth, Joanna, Jacqueline, Loqueesha. Anyway. So Saville's like totally aware that after the trailer dropped for Loqueesha, some people were like, maybe this isn't a good idea. But no, he disagrees because Saville said that this movie is supposed to be similar to White Chicks, and then posted a picture of him next to a terrified looking Marlon Wayans. So, what he's saying is true. Just in the interest of complete transparency, let me just drop this clip of Marlon Wayans. Just right here.
There's a big difference between White Chicks and Loqueesha. There's a history behind blackface. And we don't have that kind of history with whiteface. The playing field it ain't even playing field yet. When it's even playing field, we can start laughing together. But until then, you ain't gonna exploit us. Your interpretation is not authentic. Your interpretation is something that's offensive.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Okay, and then a woman storms into the bar in what I'm sure the director, writer, prop manager, IT security manager, and tax auditor, Jeremy Saville, thought was a very impactful moment.
Give me something strong.
Okay.
What is it?
Bottle rage.
Sounds perfect.
You see, her name is Rachel, and she's pissed off about men. And then this happens.
Martha, you've been fasting again, haven't you? No, I'm telling you, my belly is full. I couldn't eat another thing. You know what the doctor said about fasting too much? It was just a juice cleanse. I knew it. You lying, morally reprehensible creature with a penis.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't really know what this is, but I don't like it. Not only is it probably offensive in the same way that asking an Indian person who loves the Quickie Mart would be. But if you actually take a moment to dissect what he is saying, as in the individual words that are coming out of his mouth, they are not funny. This is just objectively bad writing. Okay, right, so Rachel's mad about men and she's upset that some guy that she's in a relationship with is lying to her. And it's implied that he's cheating, but she gave him another chance. And then in response to this, Joe gives her some super helpful advice and just goes full alpha male podcast and tells her that it's her fault that he's cheating because she's enabling it. And if she wants to play the victim, that's fine, but she knows that she's the problem.
Don't be rude.
And for some reason, she does the exact same thing that the guy from the beginning of the movie did. Tell him, oh my god, this is the most helpful advice I've ever received. Cut to the next scene, and oh my god, the ADR in this movie is so fucking annoying. Those of you who don't know, ADR is the process of re-recording audio so it sounds cleaner. And usually you'll do it in like a studio or a separate location, just so you don't get things like background noise, like the sound of a truck or the sound of cars if you're filming on location. But this movie just gives zero fucks. No, singular fuck. Because you have ADR that has just been sliced into scenes that coincides with every different camera cut. So you can audibly hear the different camera shots. Terrible. Anyway, so in the next scene, Joe is talking with his ex-wife, and his ex-wife informs us that they have a super special white savior baby, TM, and that she needs $13,000 a semester to put him in a super special school. Okay, cool. And if you haven't noticed, this will be our main character's emotional crutch. Can I find a picture of a sad crutch? Do it in post. Do it in post. Okay, so we cut to like a few I don't know, weeks, days, months, years later. The movie never really tells us. And we're back with Rachel, and she hands Joe what I can only describe as that piece of paper from the middle of a fortune cookie, and it's got like a job advert on it, and the job advert says, local radio host wanted, minorities and women encouraged. And I looked at this note and I said to myself, what in the 1800s typewriter is going on here? Like, this isn't even Microsoft Word. Like, what is this? But Rachel is like, oh my god, you remember that one time you gave me that really dope advice and you told me that I was the problem because my boyfriend was cheating on me? Changed my life. You really need to apply for this talk show because you could help people. So Joe and Rachel start rehearsing so he can audition for this radio station, and then Joe's nervous, so he gives himself a therapy session because he's so wise. And honestly, if I haven't mentioned it enough, I really just want to mention it again, how really wise Joe is. Because he has worked so hard, you know, he has really worked on himself. There's been so much rigorous self-examination.
All that hard-fought wisdom he's accrued by rigorous self-examination and ruthless accountability gets displaced with a self-conscious tick as he strives to satisfy a fickle public opinion.
Not sure where any of that was when you decided to make this movie, but okay. So they send in the audition reel and it gets rejected. We then cut to the next day and Joe is at home watching a terribly green-screened reality TV show which has two black women screaming at each other on it. And he says, that's who people want to hear these days. People don't want to hear white guys like me telling them what to do. People want people like that. And so Loqueesha is born.
Hey, Loqueesha, my name's Kitty. I think my boyfriend's cheating on me. Well, there's a good reason for that, girl. Loqueesha don't play that. This ain't no pretend time, but I am the lion, you are the witch, and it's time for you to come out of the wardrobe.
And oh my god, what didn't you know? He is just so clever. It totally works. First try, no issues. He sends in this demo and straight away they're like, we need you for our radio show. You don't have any experience? We don't give a fuck. You can't send over any ID? What's ID anyway? You can't be taxed? Well, can anyone? Nope, 0 questions asked. You have a radio show. Good job. As a person of color, let me just say right away that this is 100% true to my real life experience. I just apply to things with 0 experience and 0 relevant skills, and yeah, they just give it to me because I'm a person of color. That's how it works 100% of the time for everyone.
Girl, please. No, sorry. Next.
I should also probably know that I just skipped over a whole 5 to 8 minute blah blah rant that this guy goes on about absolutely nothing. The movie just holds you hostage and makes you sit there listening to the inane ramblings of some dude who just so happened to find a Premiere Pro license key on the floor. Joe then meets with a guy named Mason from his bar and convinces him to be the producer of the show. And then they make this joke.
Wait, you're not some kind of transgender, transracial, cross-cultural dresser, are you?
And I just want to be really clear with you guys that they make this same joke about maybe 5 or 6 times throughout this movie. You know, just for the life of me, can't figure out why. You can't be the only one picking up the incel vibes, right? I would also like to know, just in general, that listening to this guy screech in this voice that he's doing for Loqueesha is exceedingly painful. But it did remind me that when I was like 11 years old, that movie Norbit came out. Do you remember Norbit? And I vaguely remember watching this movie and being semi-obsessed with his character Respucia. And that's always what it sounds like. Like this grown-ass man's 2019 character reminds me of my 11-year-old self trying to do Respucia from Norbit. But that also got me thinking that Eddie Murphy's done several of those movies, right? Oh my god, what's that other movie that Eddie Murphy did where he does the same thing? Like he did Norbit, but then before that, he did another fat suit movie, didn't he? Oh my god, what is that? It's almost like Flubber, but it's not Flubber, but it's pretty much the plot of Flubber, right? It's like he's a doctor. Dr. Flubber? No, it's not. It's... Dr. Doolittle? Dr. Doolittle? No. Is it Dr. Doolittle? It's Dr. Doolittle. The one where, no, Dr. Doolittle's the one where he can speak to the animals, but it's Doctor, Surgeon General, Doctor, Professor Moreau, the island of Professor Moreau, the island of Dr. Professor Moreau, the professor of... the Nutty Professor. He was in the Nutty Professor. Oh, that's better than sex. Okay, so this dude is sitting there and he's on one of his calls. And then when he's giving advice to a caller, he says this.
You white people so afraid to say what's on your mind. What you so afraid of? You the one running things. And you like slaves to what other people think. After all these years, white people are the slaves. How you like that?
And at this point, I literally felt writer, director, producer, extra, craft service manager, Jeremy Saville himself reach through the screen, grab me by the neck, spit in my mouth and say, "Do you get it yet?" Okay, so super unexpected. Oh my god, everything just goes so well for Loqueesha. Like, everybody loves her. She is a smash hit. In fact, things are going so well that they get moved to primetime drive radio. And they also have to hire someone to do all of Loqueesha's personal appearances because she's such a popular local drive time radio presenter that people just want her places. The opening of local Taco Bells and ribbon cuttings at municipal state buildings. You know, celebrity stuff. At some point, Rachel calls into the show and tells Loqueesha that she has a crush on Joe, so Joe uses Loqueesha to manipulate his way into Rachel's pants. So Rachel takes the advice and goes over to Joe's place and starts making out with him, and he's like, sweet. But then in the middle of their hot and heavy session, Joe's Loqueesha voice starts coming out of him, and he doesn't know which one of them is the true dominant self anymore. The white guy or the fictitious black woman inside of his head.
I think I might be a black woman trapped in a white man's body.
You're gay?
No, I'm not gay. I'm just very confused right now. I've been going through some very odd changes, Rachel.
Are you pre-op transgender?
Oh, and they also make that same trans joke again, so it's back. And at this point in the movie, they decide to drag Oprah into this because Oprah apparently emails Loqueesha and says, "Hey, do you want a TV show?" And it's at this point that I'd like to remind you all again that yes, as a minority, I can vouch this is exactly how fast things happen for us all of the time. Okay, so Joe says no to Oprah because he says it's too much risk. But Mason and Renee Michelle... Did I mention Renee Michelle? I know I mentioned that they hired someone to do Loqueesha's live appearances. But I don't know if I mentioned that that person's name was Renee Michelle. Anyway, her name is Renee Michelle. And she's like, I want to take this Oprah deal. But Joe says no. He said, this is my ship and we're taking it where I want to go. So Renee says to him, no. You have co-opted an entire gender and culture to suit your needs. And now we're going to think about my needs because you are benefiting greatly from pretending to be me. So we're going to renegotiate our little agreement here. And you don't really have a choice because otherwise I'm just going to tell everybody what you did. And I'd also like to point out here another line which I think that writer, producer, director, health and safety manager, and stunt coordinator Jeremy Saville is very proud of.
Are you blackmailing me?
No, I'm black femaling you.
So the next day, Joe decides to go on air as Loqueesha and just cancels the entire thing. He's just like, nope, how dare you? How dare you pesky people of color who are supposed to be my staff try to better your own situation in this agreement in any shape, way, or form? No. Actually, Mason gets out of this pretty much okay. It's really just Renee Michelle who's painted out to be the villain, which does mean that in a movie about a white man co-opting the identity of a black woman, the villain is the actual black woman who he used to cover up his lies.
I hate it here.
Okay, so Joe's quit, right? He's no longer doing the Loqueesha thing. So Renee Michelle takes over, but apparently she's just not as good. She just can't seem to give that amazing advice that just comes so naturally to Joe. So Renee goes to Joe and she's like, hey, Mr. White Savior, can you please help me? Because I just can't do this alone. And in response, he's like, no, because you turned this entire operation into some morally reprehensible shit show. And it's like, girl, do you remember what you were doing here? No? Okay. And so in order to fix this, Joe goes to the head of the radio station and he's like, hey, guess what? I've been Loqueesha all along. And for some reason, they decide that the only way they're gonna fix this is for Joe to go on air and admit that he was Loqueesha and then ask the audience, hey, are you guys just okay for me to carry on doing what I was doing? Because I brought so much joy to you guys whilst pretending to be a black woman that, like, I can just carry on doing it, you know, if you want me to. Or I could just, you know, do a radio show as me and not as Loqueesha. I guess if you want to have that option, you can have that option too. Otherwise, I could just carry on doing what I'm doing. And they decide by Facebook poll. If that isn't some dystopian bullshit, I don't know what is. We then have a montage of everybody telling Joe how proud they are of him for, you know, coming out and living his truth. Oh, Rachel also shows up and she's like, hey, I'm the black woman that you manipulated into making out with you. And what you did was super offensive, but you're still the most authentic and real person I've ever met. So I love you. And oh my God, thank fuck. That's where this movie ends. Okay, so rattled through that one. I'm gonna go put on my lashes, change my outfit, and then we'll have some final thoughts. Okay, I'm back. So, what did I think of this movie? I think it might go without saying at this point that I don't really think that Loqueesha is a movie. It seems to me that Loqueesha is more of a collection of random gibberish strung together by a narcissist who's probably just having a hard time. Not only is the concept of Loqueesha just absolutely terrible, but in every other way that this movie could have made up for its terrible concept, be it in execution, be it in cinematography, be it in audio quality, be it in the very words that you wrote in the script, Loqueesha fails. It is boring, the messaging is terrible, it is poorly shot, it is terribly banal, and what's worse, what is one of the most egregious things that I cannot forgive is that you didn't even get a custom title. I just can't forgive it. I'm sorry, I just can't forgive it. You can be offensive, you can be ignorant and potentially just not know better, but there is no excuse for being lazy, and there is no excuse for being cheap. And writer, director, Uber driver, McDonald's drive-thru worker, Jeremy What's-His-Face was very cheap in his execution of this movie. And I can find joy in pretty much anything. Like, I watch shitty romance movies on the regular. This is just not a very good product. Anywho's, that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and I hope you like this look. In case this movie stressed you out as much as it stressed me out, I'm gonna do my outro in ASMR. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can find links to all of my socials in the description box down below. And make sure to let me know what movie you'd like to see me review next. Until next time, kisses from England. Bye, guys.